Welcome to another week from the Kingdom Games Studio. I'm Chris, your humble community server. I'm here today again with Brandon, everyone's favorite lead engineer.
Woo. What's up, guys? I'm doing all right.
Great.
It's been a long week, but almost over.
Yeah, what's been going on this week?
We are still working on a new game mode. I'm not sure exactly how much we're supposed to say, but a new arena type mode, if I can say that, and kind of new content, new experience that allows people to get a lot more gameplay time out of our game, and also just kind of like a progression mode that progresses for a long time, potentially infinitely. So
Diabolical.
yeah.
So you guys been hard at work on that?
Bit, yeah.
Any free time? No?
No, not too much.
Yeah,
At
no.
work, at least.
Yeah. South by Southwest is going on, GDC's going on, all sorts of crazy stuff, and
It's true.
fun announcements. I'm waiting for Nintendo to come out with a VR headset, because that's probably going to be there.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. I think it's inevitable. That's where they'll go.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff at GDC and South by Interactive is all VR stuff right now.
Yeah. Cool VR. There's some cool stuff going
Yeah.
on. Anyway, so with the development of a new mode, it kind of raises a lot of interesting questions for me. And I guess one of the more practical ones is is it as simple as you just create a new menu entry? Like, how do you let the game know that there is a completely, basically, like, kind of new game, right? I mean,
there's a lot of aspects. I mean, we got like a basic prototype up and running in a day or two, using a lot of existing assets we have for the campaign. We kind of put together just a Greybox level and used, spawners and other features that we've had for the campaign. So just getting something up and running isn't too bad. I mean, we use the same mechanics in terms of movement or abilities or player input. We're reusing, character assets and VFX and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to start it up?
Let's see it. If you click Unity there before you launch it.
Unity?
Yeah, and then launch it up. Should show up on the screen.
All right, well, let's see. So I think we're just showing kind of a little bit of what we've done.
Yeah.
Some other people have worked on some things that won't be shown, but there's also a warning that this is quite buggy still. Well,
I mean, this has been put together in essentially a week and a half, right? I mean,
yeah,
this is...
pretty much. We started at the beginning of this sprint, but obviously it's it's taking work we've done for a long time.
It's all still Greybox, but I mean, this is basically the early steps in game development, which is you have your engine, you have your set pieces, and then you just say, all right, well, how do we make this fun and compelling, right?
Yeah, and this is kind of funny. In the editor, there's not that second Benaya, but it's kind of funny that he's like running around attacking people.
Bugs can be fun.
Yeah, it's pretty much just like a Benaya follower running around attacking people. It's a feature.
You can't do that.
Benaya clone. I like Benaya clone, if you will.
I realize I don't have any stamina reasons.
So to get to this stage where you have a Greybox and you have all these enemy types spawning for the wave, what does that take? I mean, if it's done in a day, it can't be that much work, right?
So one of our designers Greyboxed this level, and we're using this nice tool to do that. Essentially, like, an artist didn't create this level, a designer did, and I'm just walking you kind of around the bounds. These are kind of like monster closets right there, a boss monster closet. But a designer is going to kind of map out the space that he or she believes is going to be a good fit for the type of gameplay they're looking for. And so, like, a few things, obviously, with our isometric angle, there are some areas here that, like, you can get into that you can't really see yourself. So we'll iterate on things like that so that anywhere that the camera, with this angle, anything that's going to block the character, we'll lower that. But yeah, one of our designers made the layout kind of a space that he thought was fun, I guess. Part of what we're doing is looking for the fun. And he put it together pretty fast, probably only a few hours. And then he used a lot of existing tech to get it working. We kind of have like a state graph system where you can do events and missions. And then, in our game, we have to have spawners to spawn out, Philistines that are attacking you, or the Amalekites. And so he just used that existing tech for this. And then just had some scripts for when they should come out, and this, and that'll be the end of this wave, I think. Yeah.
And all of this, I mean, like, this is... I get that's the simplicity of it, is you don't need to actually go through and recode player movement and all that basic, because all that basic functionality, like player models, animation, all of that's already in there, and you are just taking existing pieces and kind of rearranging them in a new way and say, hey, what if we do it this way? And let's tweak this, and let's place spawners in this area, and then from there it's basically just designing, hey, after this happens. I guess we handle graphing pretty simply, right?
Yeah, there are some issues. One of the things, like right now you can see we're using Benaiah, who is a character, in the story if you played the campaign. And for our campaign, we knew the characters that you're going to be playing, so they're all kind of pre-made, and they have all their abilities and progression and level up stats and everything. But part of what we're doing for this mode, which you can't see this in here, is the ability for you to custom create your character with visuals and in terms of stat leveling up progression.
Right.
And one of the issues that I've been dealing with right now is it's really easy when we have a pre-made character, just instantiating it in the scene and letting it work. But when we've been putting together visuals based on like skin color, face, hair type, that sort of thing, the animation system is broken because we're kind of putting it together piecemeal. And that's what I'm working on right now. You can't see in this, obviously, because I'm gonna die.
I can't do that.
So is that a bone structure thing? Is that a model thing? Like
no. Everyone's going crazy.
Uh-oh.
I think it's funny. I think this guy's still alive, so they don't know what to do. No, it's not a bone structures thing. It's a kind of like an order of operations. When we create in the 5 campaign, like Benaiah or Eleazar, we kind of have a object that has all the data, all the relevant information. It has the animation, the visuals, the ability, controller, movement, steering, pathing, and it's all kind of hooked up. So as soon as you put it in, it's all ready to go.
Yeah.
But when we're putting this together piecemeal, essentially it's like, okay, these are the visuals you made for this character, here's like your weapon ability progress, a lot of those types of things.
I don't like to synchronize.
Well, some of them are dependent on, some of it, it probably comes down to not the best coding, but there's some, you call like maybe circular references where one object requires another object to be there before it can initialize itself.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, for instance, like our mover component, it requires the animation system to be there because depending on your speed, that'll change, the speed of your animation that you're going to run, so there's not sliding and all of that. And that system actually requires, that the actual visuals and animated skinned mesh object is there. But part of what happens when you put together the character is the movement will go on, then it's on the character when it's created, but then the visuals are put on, and so then the movement component has to be updated to know that, hey, we have these new visuals that are based on whatever the user did in the creation screen. I don't know if that made any sense.
It does. So there's a lot of there's basically the object is calling
It's
a lot
kinda
of
funny.
different methods, right? Like it's calling animations, textures, meshes, player model, and it has to specify all that stuff. But depending on how they load in,
Well, yeah, to get like Unity technical, we have a prefab and it has a bunch of components on that prefab that represent all these different systems, as
Right.
well as some nested game objects that have these as well. And when that's created, they're all there at that creation time. But when I'm attaching these components one by one, you might attach a component that requires another component that's not there yet. And the issue is sometimes there's components that require other components that require that first component.
Right.
So there's no way I can just do this, then this. And that's kind of what we're working towards is, a civilian died. Event. Yeah, sorry. I'm not even playing.
Yeah.
Just watching.
you're just letting
Gameplay for
Fanaya
me.
2 is going
Yeah,
crazy.
this is my-
He's just going ham right now.
My Benaya's twin brother, who's way more powerful and controlled by the AI.
So I know
He might die soon. I don't know.
a lot of discussions, obviously, a lot of stuff is still in the air, but this is kind of a cool mode that
There we
is-
go.
definitely has inspirations in the genre. It's we've seen arena type combat, but it's also there's a lot of really interesting discussions about like morality and how does that apply to this game mode specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of really cool discussions. Is there anything you want to highlight, or is it still like, hey, it's still an open discussion and?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to show you something, and maybe I can restart this, and just do it again since it ran into that bug. One of the things we're gonna go with is, I guess similar more to like Guild Wars 2 or something, where your arena character will have different abilities depending on the weapon
Oh, awesome.
they have equipped. Yeah, and this is still kind of up in the air, so anything.
Yeah, I mean,
that-
this whole thing is very experimental anyway,
Mhm.
right? I mean, this is a week into development. Everything could change.
Yeah.
Nothing is finalized by any means.
Sure. And I don't know, we'll see. So here's
Benaya too
Benaya.
doesn't want to get dressed. apparently.
Yeah, but he has a basic attack and Impaler. If you unequip the weapon, now you're unarmed, and so you have a punch to the face attack,
Oh,
I guess.
nice.
But it's pretty weak. We're
That's
just kind
pretty
of
good fun. That's
Um,
a good.
yeah, but then now we can also equip. I think this is a one-handed sword. No, it's two-handed. It's a sword. What is this? Two cleaver. Try to see if I could.
Yeah, you're. The game mode's not
No. Well, I mean,
Probably gear up, and
I think the idea is that there's some challenge to it. Well, yeah, I show you. If I equip the two-handed, he does his. He has these two abilities. If you attach this two-handed sword, then he has the sword abilities. Right now, most of the two-handed abilities are all the same, and design is actually working on that. Let's see, might be able to because sweet equipment
because
now.
you're advanced, yeah.
Yeah, let's just do this. I can use my right mouse.
Nice aim.
Yeah, I know.
Well, not really an AoE.
Oh, look at that. Well, it has like a.
That's a nice splash.
Yeah,
to
you're
it.
kind of smashing in front of you. I'd show you more, except that I don't want to waste
Spoil
all
all
my.
the fun.
Well, I don't want to waste all my stamina. It's only wave 1. It's wave 2. I can show you something else real quick.
Please do.
Something fun that we'll see. One of our designers put in a little event just to kind of test some things out. But there's some civilian that'll come and need to be saved at some point.
So, why is it important to start with a Greybox prototype like this, and then play it, and have all the designers play it, and have the engineers and artists play it? Why is that important to the process?
There's a couple aspects to it from like a pure game dev perspective. You kind of want to find the fun and iterate on that before you really start generating a lot of content. A lot of times you don't want to. something feels okay, if you move on from that, then even if you add a lot of cool stuff on top, if the basic core mechanic doesn't feel that good, then it's not going to be fun, you know? Then also from a business perspective, like before you start spending a lot of money generating a lot of content, making a lot of art, you want to make sure that you're ready for that, and you know you're not gonna make all that content, make all that art, and then 6 months down the line figure out, oh wait, this wasn't fun to begin with. Like let's redo this, but like, oh, we've already spent so much money on, and I've actually experienced that. I would bet a lot of developers have experienced that before, where we got lots of art for a project. It was made before we even had like the basic mechanics down.
Oh.
And I don't want to get into this particular project. It was at a different company. But
it can definitely be problematic.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of money was spent on art before like the true game was created, and ended up a lot of problems later where we had a whole bunch of art that we were trying to shovel in that didn't make any sense for what we were doing. Yeah, but I mean, what's cool about Greybox and stuff is you don't focus on the art or some of those things like you would when you see like a cool new game that has awesome art and lighting and effects. You'll kind of gravitate towards that, and this lets you focus on just the actual gameplay mechanics, which those are still definitely being worked on because obviously it's a little bit buggy. It's mostly just playing in the editor right now.
Does this require a lot of additional tools to be made, or is because the base game is so far in development, does it?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, you have tools that are specific to this mode. A lot of the tools we make are for designers and artists to facilitate their work and allow them to get things done faster. So we're kind of making like a wave tool, so you can, designers can set what types of enemies they want to spawn, where they might spawn, and then add like randomness to it, so it doesn't feel the same always. So yeah, I mean, we will try to use tools we already have, obviously, and we do use those a lot. And for this prototype right here, a lot of what they use was existing tools. But once we start, really generating content and building up on what we've made in this prototype, we'll definitely need to make a number of tools for our team.
And where does this go from here? So, creating some tools, obviously, and obviously polishing with art, but where do you take this prototype? Does it stay in Greybox until you find that fun, or do you kind of start realizing, okay, we can start making pieces of art for this because we know this is going to be the general look? How does it go from this to the next step?
We have our level artist and another artist doing some concepts. So one of our artists is actually, he's been putting together like 2D drawing concepts, but also like putting together 3D scenes, what it might look like. It's still all in concept stage, so the next step, I think we still would need another sprint or so of really working on the gameplay and working on enemy delivery and timing, and we're just getting some of the character content creation in, and I got the weapon ability switching in yesterday. So the goal of this first sprint was to get something out that's playable, and you can kind of start to see what the mode is going to be like.
Yeah.
I still think we're a bit away from plugging in nice, level art or hooking in any story thematics or anything like that. So what we'd probably do is we all are playing this as well. We're not just making the arena, but we're also playing it.
Right.
And so we're all kind of giving our own feedback from a gamer's perspective, not even a game developer's perspective. And then we're going to iterate on a lot of those ideas. So, one thing might be the space, the area that you're playing in. I think it feels pretty good right now. I think if it was bigger, you might be able to add more obstacles or traps or things like in the area.
Oh, yeah.
But it also, if you're fighting dudes in the bottom left corner and then some guys spawn on the top right, you don't want to spend forever just like running up to get them and things like that. And so, a lot of our designers as well, they have a lot of feedback so far. So we'll take feedback from ourselves and then we'll say, okay, based on that, we need to do X, Y, and Z for the arena. Like maybe we need to make it bigger. Maybe we need to spawn enemies from other spots. Maybe we need to make sure that enemies are always spawning far enough away from you because you could just wait by a spawner and try to, spawn camp essentially on the enemies.
Is that critical to look for those, like, okay, so this is how we want you to play, but hey, really you could just sit and camp by the spawner and just kill everyone, so...
Yeah, we want to try to identify as many of those things as we can. It is pretty early for some of that,
Yeah.
You'll learn that, like, no matter what, someone's going to find something to do to game the system, and if it involves you, like, running around kiting enemies for, 20 minutes before doing something, then, like, we can't really prevent.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. But we try to keep those in mind. Like, we wouldn't want you to have some all-killing AoE ability and you can just stand by a spawner and hit them. But for now, that's probably not the things we're focused too much on, even though I did mention it. We are probably more focused on one, just actual playability in terms of, obviously with this, it's still a little bit buggy and all of that. As well as we want to start getting certain features in, like progression. So what happens when, you gain experience and how do you level up your abilities? Yeah.
So, do you feel the first pieces falling into place with this? Is this where you would expect to be after 2 weeks? Is this farther ahead than you thought you'd be?
We all understood that we'd be able to get out a basic prototype pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
We probably did get more done than we planned. A lot of it you don't see here. In terms of the character creation and some of that. It's also a little bit weird because we're all just playing this in the editor and things are a lot different in the editor as opposed to when you like make a build and someone's playing it.
Yeah.
So like any QA team will tell you, you got to play the build to find the bugs because things will act differently. So part of what we'll probably need to start doing is making nightly builds and making sure that what we see in the editor when we're making things and tweaking things and writing scripts and making tools, that actually translates into the build itself, which right here you can see that some of it did, but some of it didn't.
So where can you kind of preview where over the next sprint, like what's the next couple of steps? What will be the next like goal of the sprint?
Yeah, and this will really depend on who you ask. We haven't actually planned it out yet in terms of the tasks we're going to be working on. We know kind of like the overall goal for the end, but I would think design is going to iterate on the enemies, the abilities you can use, what loot you might earn, difficulty, time between waves, all that sort of aspects. I think on the engineering side, we'll work some more on tools. I think I'm going to work on some AI, because obviously, like, arena encounters are a lot different.
Right.
And there's also that aspect of, with sort of a arena endless wave sort of scenario, you want combat to probably feel a little more like cohesive, I guess. You don't want people to try to find like little tricks they can do in terms of like, if I just move and then shoot an arrow and move and shoot an arrow, like they'll never be able to hit me.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't seem like a very fun way to play. But if you're going for a high score, you want to, try to prevent people from getting and doing any cheap methods, I guess. So one thing we talked about is having AI that's maybe a little bit smarter or a little bit more predictive, so you can't do some of those lamer methods, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The cheese methods.
What else? Yeah. I still think we're going to stay away from final art, but we'll probably start narrowing down the exact content that we will need in terms of models, animations, UI, VFX. Probably need to start identifying what sounds we're going to need as well. So then maybe like an end goal would probably be an arena that works well in a build that has actual progression, so like earning things, so like unlocking new abilities, earning points so you can up your stats after you level up. And there's one more, just getting loot and money from playing that you can then spend and do stuff with, weapons you can equip, as well as persistent data. Right now, that's what I'm working on with the character creation content stuff. I create a character and I play him and I get a bunch of items and I've unlocked some abilities to make sure that you can save that, and then next time you play it's loaded up. So kind of more of this is like a first playable prototype, when the next one is more of a prototype that's indicative of the final gameplay that we want. It'll still be greyboxed and placeholder art, lots of programmer designer art, but hopefully you could keep playing, fight those waves, do all that.
Closer to that finding the fun. And
Yeah,
feels like.
hopefully we're finding the fun as we go. We're going to meet and have a little postmortem about this sprint in terms of, what worked well, what didn't work well, and what are best practices going forward in developing an arena mode. And a lot of that we'll be discussing, what's fun, what's not fun. And a lot of it right now is like what's blatantly not fun, right?
Right.
So, or blatantly broken.
Yeah, Benaya 2, I guess, won't make it to the final cut.
Yeah, I'm sad that it added another Benaya, because it would actually like pop up some UI and you could restart.
But that's what prototypes are about, right?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. And then the third wave actually had a boss too. It's just one of the bosses we use in the campaign, but
you're getting all that functionality and say, okay, here we can spawn a boss. Here we can spawn a different type of event from just enemies. It's here, protect somebody while enemies come at you.
Yeah, and that's actually all there, because we have all that in our game right now. The ability to fight guys and the ability to spawn bosses or regular enemies. And that's how we were able to get this working so fast. Obviously, if we're going to make an engaging mode, we need to build tools so that the designers can make these things faster. Like, just because they're able to do it doesn't mean it was done in the best way. But for a prototype, you understand that you're going to throw out a lot of stuff. You don't need, you don't want to be married to what you do in a prototype in terms of like, I can't throw out this scene I made or this code that I wrote.
Killing your darlings is what we call it in writing. Killing the darlings.
Nice.
So it's like, it's a draft state, obviously, but you need to put it down to see what it'll look like in order to progress to the next stage and the next stage until you get closer to, final builds and polish.
For sure. Yeah, I think sometimes just you might get too attached to something just because you did it and it works. But this might sound, I don't know if this is going to sound bad or not, but when we do this, we kind of throw out best dev practices. Like, if we're writing some scripts, we might not write the best code. We just want to get it done and get it done fast. So that's part of the reason why we'll throw out some of this stuff, too. We just want to get the game working as soon as we can so we can, is this fun? How do we make it more fun?
With that, we are Kingdom Games ATX on all your favorite social media sites. Kingdom Games in Austin, Texas. That's Kingdom Games ATX. The game is 5 Guardians of David. And this is the secret new mode in development that we'll dub the arena mode for now, but who knows what the final version will be.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. I'll give you the last word, Brandon. Thanks for joining me again.
Word.
Word.
Yeah.
With that, all right, everybody. Thank you for watching. And we are